Since you can't really see what's happening in someone else's mind, there's a new branch of science called the science of the first person. And so in order to study that science, we need other tools, right? And one of the main tools are different sort of meditation or mindfulness techniques like Zen, breathing exercises, transcendental meditation, you name it. There's a lot of different ones out there. And the whole goal is to show that we can take the same principles of objectivity and falsifiability found in the science of objects and apply them to the science of the first person or the science of the mind. And what that helps you do is have an objective understanding of the way that you view your thoughts. A lot of times, I think people struggle, including myself, struggle with basic thoughts, right? We tend to get into negative thought patterns. We kind of talk down to ourselves for various reasons, just the way that we live our lives. And so through this kind of lens, you're able to see the world more objectively, including your thoughts, which allows you to reduce the amount of suffering that you have.
It helps with suffering? Like, what do you mean? What would be an example of that?
Yeah. So in Zen, one of the main principles for suffering is attachment. So that's attaching to an idea of, for example, who you're supposed to be or what you're supposed to do. And by understanding that the world is impermanent and that it's always changing, you're kind of able to decouple from that attachment, because it's kind of like trying to grab water with your hand. As soon as you try to grab the water is going to change forms and kind of flow out of your hands. And so by being able to see that your idea space is impermanent, your idea space is always changing because it's uncountable, you're able to not attach to the different thoughts that build up. There's a good quote where it's like, as soon as something is deemed important, it becomes a nest, and then you attach to it. And that becomes kind of like the way you view the world. And then you can stubbornly attach to that idea. But then if you have new information about the world that kind of provides a new way of looking at the world, then you're hard-pressed to change your ways in a way. So this book allows you to kind of just reassess what's true and what's not so that you can kind of live a happier life.
How do you know if a thought is useful to you or not? If it's helpful or if it's even valid? How do you, what do you lay it against to evaluate that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I think like thought being useful, it's kind of tricky just because thoughts just kind of appear out of the blue. They just kind of show up. So I think the key is not getting tangled up in the thought and the emotions that arise with the thought. So like, for instance, sometimes like you'll just be thinking and then you'll go down a thought, like a spiral where like, well, I'm supposed to be at this place and point in time, but I'm not. And then you just kind of continuously go down that spiral. And then at some point you realize that you're upset and those emotions have conjured up in your body in different ways, shapes, or form, and you just feel bad. So being able to just notice when the thought that triggered the initial emotion arises and iteratively backtracking to the thought that triggered that emotion is really helpful for just trying to live a life where you're not constantly in your own head 24/7 and beating yourself up. So I think that's kind of like the key to finding useful thoughts versus unuseful thoughts. There's this idea of like whether they will cause wholesome or unwholesome actions, right? So wholesome thoughts are thoughts of gratitude and kind of stimulating thoughts in an intellectual sense. And then unwholesome thoughts are thoughts of just harm, ill will, and things of that nature. So just being able to catch yourself when you're thinking in those states is important.
So, I mean, who is using the ideas in the book? What kind of feedback have you gotten? Is this for like executives to help kind of clear their head so they can run their company better? Or who's the audience of it?
Yeah, good question. So I think the audience is threefold. Three major people. The first is anyone in a transition point in life, whether you're a recent college graduate or a retiree. If you're kind of looking for the next step in the world, like what am I supposed to be doing with myself, then I think this book gives you the tools to just have a better understanding of what you want in life. The second is for mindfulness practitioners and skeptics. For the practitioners, it just helps deepen your meditation practice, and for the skeptics, it helps build a scientific foundation to meditation based on physics so that you can dive into meditation and mindfulness and kind of get the rewards of the practice, like peace of mind and equanimity, without being thrown off by the woo-woo culture around it, which exists today. And then the last one is anyone who's scientifically curious. The book, as much as it talks about meditation and mindfulness, is very science heavy. So if you like learning about how the universe works, if you like learning about fractals even, then definitely is the book for you.